Welcome to the Code 4 Couples podcast, focusing on topics for law enforcement officers and couples to keep you and your relationship connected, resilient, and Code 4. Now, your host, law enforcement expert Cindy Doyle, author of Hold the Line and My Wife.
Welcome back to Code 4 Couples. Kelli, I'm so excited to have you on. And I say that a lot about everybody, but I am prepared for us to have a long conversation. If you did not know Kelli, I originally thought, are you living under a rock? But I'm like, some people aren't on social media as much as, and some people don't follow you. Kelli is, I don't know if I should call you, I know you were at least the president of the National Police Wives Association, which is how I found her years ago. I'm a very big association girl. I'm involved in like counseling associations. I was like, surely there's some kind of association for police wives. And so I started Googling, and that's how I found National Police Wives Association in Kelli. But Kelli is just an amazing human being. And it was so important for me to bring her on for multiple reasons that we're going to talk about, not only her experiences, but also the advocacy and the outreach that she does is inspirational to so many of us. She is one of the first people that her local department calls at crisis situations. She has led waves of spouses through civil unrest in St. Louis. She is a national speaker. She's an advocate. I'm getting goosebumps. She's an advocate for our police family across the country. And she has helped spouses build crisis training groups nationwide. And she has so much going on. Kelli, thank you for coming on. I'm just excited to have this conversation with you, or multiple conversations with you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Look, I am happy to be here. I love me some Cindy, y'all. Y'all don't know. I love people that do, especially wellness work with our officers and things. And Cindy does that, and she does it with couples, which we know can be something else. I'm happy to be here. Anytime Cindy asks me to be somewhere, I'm going to be there.
And I think it's ditto. Like anytime Kelli had reached out, I think over 2020 COVID, and I'm like, yes, I will say yes to Kelli anytime. So that works. Mutual Admiration Society, again, it's all good. I know we were starting to have a conversation. And I said, okay, hold on. Let's get recording of this. I know a part of your story was that, or is that your husband was, I hope this isn't dramatic, shot down.
And he was ambushed.
He was ambushed. And I said, is that part of where this started for you? And you said, oh, no, this started way before. How did your passion for supporting this community get started?
I have to say that the start of advocacy and the start of being on a national stage started with Ferguson. I'm from St. Louis. I live in St. Louis, love St. Louis. My husband is a police officer on the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. Shout out to the SLMPD, some of the best. That's the home of the real police.
You're stirring the pot here, girl.
Yeah, I'm going to stir it. But it started with Ferguson. And I have to also give a shout out to my partner in crime, Shannon Dandridge. When Ferguson happened, I was not the president of the National Police Wives at the time. I'm not a founder. Let me go back to that first. I'm not the founder of the National Police Wives. There was another group of very wise ladies who founded the National Police Wives over 15 years ago. It's been in existence.
I didn't know that.
For over 15 years. And one of the founders actually lives in Jefferson City, Missouri, which is the capital of the state of Missouri. So now you all are starting to see where some of these connections come in. But anyway, at the time, I was the president of our local chapter here in St. Louis, and Ferguson happened. And nobody expected Ferguson to turn out what it is. I can always call Ferguson a series of unfortunate events. And because everything about Ferguson, I know that there are real nuances to what everybody's thought process is about Ferguson, but as a Black woman, as the spouse of a police officer, there are so many things that I can see that led to the divisiveness and conflict that happened in Ferguson. That would be a whole nother conversation that we would have to have. But there were so many things that happened out there that day that caused the high emotions that went on. And the biggest thing was social media and the work of the media, what they played in it. Because I can tell you, being a person here on the ground, I was actually with another police officer who was performing in a adaptation of The Wiz at the time, which is down the street from where this incident happened. Down the street from where it happened, because I actually grew up in Ferguson. I went to high school in Ferguson, all of that. And we were down the street at the Florissant Civic Center, and all of a sudden, all the radios, everything, all people's phones, everything lit up, and there's been this shooting, and this officer has shot this unarmed person whose hands were up. The narrative had already began to form. And I don't think I've ever seen anything in this country happen like that, where it was just all of a sudden you would turn on every radio and every radio station. Now let's think about it. Now that doesn't seem funny. Anybody that's got an iPhone or a camera or an Android is out there and free sound right now. But at points, 2014, there were radio stations reporting on this shooting. I was saying, wow, I'm shooting. So,
You're like, what the heck is that?
I'm like, what is this? What is? It's overnight, it blew up into this huge thing. And Shannon, who is one of my very best friends, I call her the godmother of our police spouse. And people talk about me. Listen here, that woman there, you want to have somebody on your show to really talk about some things. Shannon, she's the one. But Shannon was actually working in Ferguson at the time. She's not only married to a police officer, worked administrative on the major case squad, and she was one of the admins and logistical people in Ferguson at the time.
Wow.
24 hours goes by, 48 hours goes by. She and I have a conversation. It's getting really bad. She and I have a conversation, and I say, what's Shannon? Officers don't even seem like they can stop and eat. They can do anything. And she said, I'm going to be real honest with you. That's not happening. They were getting food, but they're not getting what they really need. They're not getting the resources because what department was prepared for that at the time?
None.
We have had a right in this country since like civil rights. And nobody was prepared. And I said, what do we do? She said, I think we need to feed them. And reality hit us that night. And that's where this story starts. That if we did that we were probably going to be jumping over into the deep water. It would not be a one-time thing. It would not be a two-time thing. And there we started. And we sat down, her and I, that night, put some rules together and decided we're going to find the bravest spouses we can to go into command post, to run command post, to pull resources, to do whatever we can to feed these officers, to provide them with whatever they needed, to be a smiling face when they came in to eat, to get them chaplain services if they needed it, to get the dogs food if they needed it to do. And for a period of 3 to 4 years, there we were, a very small group of police spouses running a huge, large, major campaign. I remember the first night with food, there was a big roadblock of Black Panthers. They had blocked off anybody coming down the road, any kind of supplies. And so they were at a certain part in Ferguson, and they were saying, we're not going to be able to get food down there. And I said, load it into the back of my car. And these people looked at me like, what do you mean? We're not.
What are you doing? You're going into the war zone.
What are you doing? Like, what are you?
Yes.
I said, load it into the back of my car. I'm a Black woman. I don't have on any police gear. They're not going to know who I am. They're not. It's not what they're out there for. They're not that because I understand what protest is. Again, I'm an African-American woman who grew up in a very educated family. I understood. I said, I'm going to go down there. They're going to ask the Panthers to let me pass. And they're going to let me pass. And they did. So
wow.
and I took the food in for those officers that night. They had no idea what I had in my car. They had no idea what.
Right.
I just went up and very politely asked them to let me pass into that area that I needed to get in there. And they said, okay, sister. And they let me
Go
by.
on.
And that is where this started at. That is where my start out onto the national stage as we began to do campaigns and different things as police wives for Ferguson. We began to have different media approach us and say, will anyone speak for these officers and their families? And I said, I will. I'm not afraid to. Because I knew I was uniquely positioned.
You are.
This is where people have to begin to measure themselves as spouses as we talk about advocacy and how you can do your work and what you can do. I knew that I was uniquely positioned, especially as a Black woman, to be able to do the kind of work at the time that needed to be done, to be able to get on television and people feel comfortable on both sides with what I had to say. And I remember shoring myself up and speaking with my mother, who was alive at the time. My mother passed in 2020. My mother was huge with me. My mother had a PhD in education. She had grown up in this. And I remember her saying, just remember that when you are out there speaking for people, you are speaking for people and not yourself. Your opinions do not matter. What are you trying to say for the people that you are speaking for? Your opinion as an advocate is to advocate for those spouses, those officers, and those families. And what do you want those people on the other side who don't really know you to know?
Wow.
And that may have been a long way around it, but that is how I started. In my husband's shooting, I am, of course, a Christian woman too. I believe that my husband's shooting, which came in 2015, really began to shore me up for the work that I needed to do nationally, because I had always been here in St. Louis. We have a deal with our departments and things. We've had that deal for years. When an officer shot around here, or when there's a crisis around here, they call us in as well to do peer support and to help with families. When they respond to a hospital, officer shot around here, one or two of us on that list, they call and they say, hey, such and such, there's been a shooting. Our first questions are always, is there a spouse? Are there children? Is there a mother and a father? Who's coming? Who's all, so that we can prepare to receive that spouse, to receive those parents, to receive those children. If somebody's got a baby in their hand, so that, because we know that when you get that knock at the door, you're not going to always grab the baby bag. You're not going to always grab the formula. You're not going to always grab the diapers. You're not going to.
Yes.
So that we will be there to say, when mama says, I didn't bring any diapers, we got you. We're here. You deal with, we'll get diapers. We'll braid the baby's hair so she can go to camp.
Yes.
We'll sit on the floor and color with the kid. No.
As we're walking through these stories, part of what, like, even in Ferguson, it's like you were doing crisis response before crisis response was cool, right? I'll just say it that way.
That's
right. Because now it is, hey, what do you have peer support wise? What do we have for crisis response? And we're still not there. We don't, there's so many departments and my husband was a part of one. And I know I work with multiples, that there is no system that you have designed. And some of this is your experience on so many different sides of, I don't want to say offense, but so many different sides, so many different views, so many different lenses, maybe is a good way of saying it, of seeing it through so many different ways that you are thinking about, okay, who's going to be there? What are their needs? Where do we start? But it started from that beginning of going, okay, what are the basic needs? What do these people need? How do they be able to do their job? And then the empowerment of, at least I see it that way, maybe you can correct me. My thought is, this is who I am. This is all of me. And that was something that in 2020, when I was looking at your posts, because I wasn't sure of what you were feeling, and we're not close enough really for me to be, you need to talk, but you were so clear on who you are and who you stand for and the voice that you are. And it's all of you. It's not one piece of you, it is all of you. And you seeing people for who they are and what they need and how can I best help their needs and what are our needs as a community is really kind of a gift. And you saying, hey, those experiences helped me, look, that I'm going to be cheesy and say that resilient mindset. How am I growing from this? How am I going to be a better human being because of these experiences? And if anybody needs a model, you are an amazing model of that.
I appreciate it. You know what? Again, I strive every day. I grew up in a household with a model that was that. And again, my mother was a teacher, a single mother. It was just me and her.
Yeah. Wow.
And I grew up with that model. My grandmother was a nurse. Those were the two most influential women. Even if you look at who officers marry, it's teachers, nurses,
helping professionals.
Helping
professionals of some kind.
Always. And when I decided when I was working full time, I was a social worker.
I didn't know that.
Yep. I worked for the University of Missouri. I did youth development. I was what was called, I actually worked for 4-H. Believe it or not, I did what was called urban 4-H. And whenever I say that, people say, what is urban 4-H? It's 4-H in urban areas. And it's still tapping into the needs of kids, but these are inner city kids. What do they need? I work with latchkey kids and on college goal setting with first-time high school graduates. In some families, these kids were the first kids to graduate high school. What do their parents know about preparing them for college? Absolutely nothing, because nobody even. So I would be the person that they would come into. I love my job and say, so my kid is now going to college. What does that mean? What do I sign? What do I not sign? What are the extras? What are they going to need for a dorm? These parents don't know anything about buying anything for me.
It's always been in your heart to give back and to serve these communities and to be a helper.
To be a helper, to be a servant, and especially in our law enforcement community and our spouses community, because I feel like during Ferguson, it was almost like we all wanted to have something to do. How do we help and sometimes sitting at home and fixing the lunches and doing that's just it. It's what else can I do? What else can I get out here and do? And I have to say, everybody thought, that's not me. I don't think I would be able to. We were in command post. Those of us, there were maybe 6 to 8 of us that actually did that. We had to be in their arm. They could not protect us. If something went on in there, we had to be willing to be in the more dangerous spots, areas, whatnot. But I would not change it for the world, because there were spouses that were sitting on the outside who needed information. And I used to say to them all the time, I remember during that time, I was watching the members of our group. You can see their Facebook posts. And I remember having a meeting and saying, listen, y'all, you all cannot melt down on Facebook, because we are extensions and representatives of our spouse. And if community members see us melting down and going on these rants and having these, what are they going to think our officers are doing? If you're a representative of the home. I remember putting together a little private Facebook page, and I'm like, y'all got to vent in here. Do it in here where it's just us and we can see it. But that would also be the page where on one of the worst nights in Ferguson, when there were 870 something officers that went out that night, and there were 4 or 5 of us in to serve them. Wow. Which was the night that they said that they were not going to indict Officer Wilson. One of the worst nights in Ferguson. I stood in a command post. I would not have wanted to be anywhere else but with those officers. And I watched them get ready, and we heard the horror that was going on the radios. And I said to those spouses that were there with me, grateful for the 5 ladies that were there with me, everybody line up at the door. Every officer that goes out the door, gets a high sign, a hug, a fist bump, something, whatever. You going in, you going out, you coming back in. When you come back in, we'll be here. We feed every officer in here tonight. We make sure that they have things to stick in their tactical pants. They're going to be out for a long time. I said, if you can, go through and take some pictures with some of these gentlemen. Put them up on the Facebook page. Because the reality is, that may be the last time their loved ones saw them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said to them, treat them like you would want somebody to treat your husband if he was in here, your spouse, your loved one, your son. You we went through so many things that night, but I was so, even the dogs, we pet those that would let us. We pet
Right,
them,
right.
loved on them, and just everybody. But I remember everybody going out, and I remember going on and saying 874 bodies out. And I did that at 7:00 at night.
Mhm.
It's 4:30 a.m. I remember going back on and just simply saying 874 bodies back in, ladies. Everybody was there. Because that's what I would want.
Yes, absolutely.
I knew that there were people sitting on the edge of their seat that night that weren't sleeping, that were scared because of what they were seeing,
Watching
or
TV,
whatnot,
listen to the radio,
watching
just
TV,
dying for some type of information.
playing Where's
Mhm.
Waldo? Oh, yes, that Corvo car, but my husband's not in it. Whatever. And I was just like, we're gonna do what we need to do tonight. I of the other ladies that were in that command post with me were in here, like some of the stories that we would bring out of the command post, like that night that this all happened. We fed them before they went out, but we didn't realize how long they would be out.
Yeah.
And we had to plan for them to come back in. And we're like, what are we going? Fast food places and different places were beginning to shut down. It's getting a little rocky. So I remember calling the one steak and somebody said chili dogs. We still got a bunch of hot dogs from earlier, and they were like, we can do chili dogs because it was November. And I remember us calling Steak and Shake. I remember saying who I was with the police department, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to need chili for about 800 people. And the manager was like, is this a joke?
I bet. You probably choked on that.
He's like, is this a joke? And I was like, and then we were like, what else can we get if they don't want that? And we were like, oh, let's call McDonald's. And I remember saying, we need 400 cheeseburgers and 400 hamburgers. And McDonald's, get this, y'all gonna laugh about this, said, we don't have that amount of hamburgers. I said,
Hello. They serve way more than that. What the heck?
and I said, that sound, the McDonald's sound like 1.2 billion.
That's what I was thinking. Billion served.
And he's, no, I don't mean we don't have. He's like, we don't have them unthawed. I said, start unthawing because we're gonna
Throw them in the
And so
microwave, dude.
Yeah, I remember me and this manager coming to an agreement that every hour for the next 5 hours, I could come and pick up 100. I would
Wow.
sit like a police car there every hour for
Wow.
the next 5 hours. But that's what it's about. That's what advocacy about. And that is like what this work is about. Like this, and then what you can do. I'm not saying what I can't do that I can't. What can I do to make this? And it could be small things. It doesn't have to be as big as this, but what can I do to make this system better? What can I do to bridge a gap, to bring the community and everybody? Because I remember even that manager having a lot of pride in being able to see it off. He was like, I want to help because I know the officers are out there working hard. And he's like, what? I said, what can you do? How many can you do? He said, I can do about 100 an hour. I was like, let's do it. All right. So,
You know, one of the aspects of you that I think of is grit. That you don't necessarily, that's what I call it. I'm not sure what you would call it, but it's this willingness to like, you know what? I don't care if it's hard. I don't care if it's scary, or I know it's going to be hard and I know it's going to be scary and I'm going to do it anyway. And I call that grit because I'm going to go do the thing. And you mentioned Ferguson. We briefly mentioned your husband getting ambushed. You've been through situations as an African American female. There's grit there too. that is different, right? Because
Yeah.
your experience of life is different than my experience of life as a white girl, right?
Mhm.
So where does your grit come from, and how can spouses find that grit within themselves?
It's funny you should talk about this. Always my favorite question. Because when we did the National Police Wives, we did a leadership summit last year. And one of the first things that we did was the True Colors personality.
Oh my gosh, it's a
And I
buddy
said,
ditty.
oh, yes, because when I worked with my kids in 4-H, I was certified to teach and do True Colors. And I remember when I was sitting down with the board and talking about it, I said, we're going to do True Colors because people need to know how far they can go and who they are. You will never be able to be a leader of anything until you know who you are and what you need. I say all the time, I am an extreme orange. And extreme orange people, if you do True Colors or never done it, you should. I just fly by the seat of their pants type. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it. I'm an extreme. I don't think about the process. I don't think about the tools. I usually am not looking at any kind of policy. We got to get this done. And what I appreciate about the other board members of the National Police Wives, we're all different colors. Every last one of us on the board we're all Randy, who's my vice president. If y'all don't know Randy Richard, you better get to know her. She's from Baton Rouge. She's blue. She's one of and blue people are the people that think about other people and their feelings and their emotions and their thoughts. And I don't care about anybody's feelings. I don't have time for no feelings. I'm out there trying to
You're like, get out of my way, I don't care.
me. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I don't usually care about how people are gonna feel about it. And she does, and that's wonderful. Rose, who's our principal person, is a gold. She's a rouge person. Let's look at the policy. Let's look at Lisa, who's our admin, and most admins are she's green. It's the list, the tools we need. That's what I always say. It has to do with my character, who I am. Now, again, I was raised a certain way. I would say that my mother was more of a green. She was more of an introverted, very introverted, organized person. But I'm not the same. I'm mixtures of all of my family members. And I think understanding who you are and how far you're willing to go. Because I'm willing to go all the way. I don't care. But now, Randy she'll go all the way, but she'll do it, gather. Now let's gather everyone together. We need everybody's opinions. And I'm like, people's opinions. And for me, it's always in the end, when it comes down to it as the leader, I'm going to make the final decision because if there's going to be criticism or compliments, I don't want them coming at my people. You can bring it to me. I'm going to take, if it went well, wonderful. If it went bad, that's all right too. Bring it to me.
Bring it to me.
At my people. Put those shades down because they didn't, in the end, make the final decision. It was my responsibility. I think who you are as a person and your character, I think that's what makes my husband and I's relationship work so well. Because I don't know if people know it, but most police officers are gold. Like that. At least most male, right. It's very cut and dry. I used to laugh at my husband all the time because I would say, you'll arrest your mother if she's speeding. It's like, my husband does not believe that there's any gray area in the law. It's black and white. There's no gray area. Now, there are good laws, bad laws, whatever, but it's the law until such time as somebody who makes the law that changes the law. And I'm the person who's going to be like, I know the speed limit is 60, but I'm 61.
I'm the girl I know the speed limit's 60, but I've got to get somewhere. Whatever.
And I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to do 61, 65. We can negotiate.
But wait, there's nobody here. A big part of this, okay, so it's not that everybody needs to show up and everybody needs to be a Kelly or a Cindy or
Oh, you
whoever,
need to be
right?
you.
It's what is your talent? What is your gift? How can you best show up? And
Yeah.
do you need a squad of people that complement what you have to give? And what I see is, I'm going to be cheesy again and say there's a rainbow, right? So you have a rainbow of people around you. You have people around you that can, as a squad, that you make a difference.
Your
And
tribe.
that
I call them your tribe.
your
I know.
tribe.
Listen, and don't y'all call Cindy, because I know some of y'all are gonna get mad. I said the word. Listen, we use the word tribe on the National Police Wives, and I remember, like maybe a year or so ago, we had to have a whole discussion because we got
Oh
a
yeah.
couple of calls where people
Oh
were
yeah.
like, "You, this is an insult to the," and I had to go
Cultural
literally-
appropriation.
Yes, this is cultural appropriation, and I literally had to go back and tell them, listen, the reason why I use it is because I read a book called Shrek.
Yes, I read the same book. It's an amazing
is-
book. If you haven't
that
read
is-
Tribe, it's worth reading.
You need to read it. And I said,
Mhm.
and the reason why I use it is because I read that book and I believe that's who we are. And I was so thankful because so many of the people, there was so many more who came on and was like, no, this is exactly a tribe. And by the way, for those of us who are actually Native Americans, that's not even a word in our culture. And that's not
Yes.
even,
And
so
as humans, we're tribal people. That's just
we
what
are
we are.
very tribal people. We are very, my degree is in social science. And so when I was studying sociology, our movements are very tribal. And so I had to explain, listen, I'm not trying to, but you have to find those people that move like you. Now that
Yes.
doesn't mean that they have to
Oh, that's
always
so good. Find
always
people that move like
that
you. That's
moves
good.
like you. When you
Mhm.
hear, you've ever heard TD Jakes, one of my very favorite people.
I'm in Dallas. Of course I have.
Yes. He talks about instinct.
Mhm.
And he's got a book called Instincts, Leadership and Instincts. I love reading books about leadership and all those kinds of things. And he's talked about how when he was looking to figure out how you find your people, he met with some cardiologists. And the cardiologists were telling him that heartbeats, when your actual heart and your
Mhm.
bloodstream, they will find the parts of your body that move the same, and it'll run through your bloodstream when you're he's saying leadership and finding your people and movements is the same. You have to find your people that move the same as you so that they don't find you abusive or find you to be abrasive or whatnot. My people know me. My people know I'll be on the porch at 2:00 in the morning processing, and they
Yep.
might get a text message at 2:00 in the morning, but they know I don't expect them to answer it.
That's just where you are.
That's just where I was, my thought process. And oftentimes it is so funny because some of even their movements, like Rose, her answer almost always is, why are you up? Why were you up at this time in the morning? And soon as I get my coffee, I will answer you. But I know that about her. I know these are people that fit my movements. These
Mhm.
are people that fit. And that's why it's so important even to figure out who your people are. Like not to expect a direct. When we suggest things or do things, I do not ever expect for Randy Rashard to answer me. She's gonna always have to go off for about 2-3 days and process it and think about it. Let me think. I want to know how's this gonna affect our people, our membership. I never expect from her a direct answer
Right.
because it ain't coming. You gotta know that about yourself too, and you have to know that about your people, and you have to find your people. One of the things I was just on talking with another podcast just earlier, a week or so ago, and we were talking about her big thing, Misty, is community over competition. And I love in the police wife world, there oftentimes becomes this huge, especially in the police spouse, this huge competition thing, this huge competitiveness. And it's so unnecessary because so many of us have so many different gifts,
Yeah.
different things. Lord have mercy. The large amount of respect that I have for Rebecca at Proud Police Wife. Listen, I wouldn't be able to do a recipe, the
Or her
list.
creativity,
That's not
the
correct.
way she connects. Yeah.
That ain't me. I appreciate that in her, which I'm sure she appreciates that I'm willing to get out there and fight and advocate and do, because that's not her. But doesn't mean that we don't both have value. So
Right.
Allison
Right.
does all of our Christian,
Yeah.
Carrie, they do a lot of Christian work. I'm a Christian person, but I don't know that I'm going to always be the person that you want leading your Bible study. Because my Bible study may come from always some Joshua fought the battle of Jericho type. I will be like, let's
And
do
I'm
it.
gonna drop everybody you mentioned. I will put in the show notes because
Yes.
not everybody knows. We're just naming names, and you and I know these people, but not everybody does. I will
And
make
these
sure
are
that
our-
everybody
these are-
knows
These
because
are our leaders of spouses groups and different things. Always, whenever people say it's a competition, it's not.
no, never.
It's a community. And we all do different things. I am never going to expect for when there's something legislative coming up or when something, not that Allison couldn't get out there and do it, but she knows I'm gonna.
Just like I do.
Usually she'll be like, Kelly, did you see this thing on qualified immunity? Yep, saw it, already on it. So,
Do you mind? Let's switch real quick because I absolutely want to talk about this. What are some of the things that we need to be aware of
right
as
now,
police spouses? Yes, on a national level. Like many of us, for me, I work very much on a state level and I have my fingers into our legislators here. I am very involved with law enforcement mental health. I serve on some statewide committees, those kinds of things. I do not keep up with the national level. I actually look towards you and I look to National Police Wives to tell me, hey, where do I need to step up? Who do I need to contact? What's my voice? What are some of the things we need to be aware of? Because you just mentioned like
so
the immunity situation.
there's a lot of good that you're talking about mental health. First of all, and a lot of people don't know this yet, we just had a major bill passed. We just had Joe Biden just signed something saying that families of officers who have completed suicide can now get a PSOB benefit. That just passed. Just passed. They've been fighting for that for years. I'm sure you all, there's Blue Help, there's concerns of police suicide.
Code 9 is
Code
another
9.
one.
Correct,
Mhm.
correct. There's all these groups that are out there fighting for benefits, and they finally got them. But let's talk
That's
about
amazing.
this is where it can get messy. I
Okay.
always tell my families, don't be messy. And what do I mean by that? First responder families are some of the messiest people. I've never seen people who could have somebody be dead in a heartbeat, and we don't have wills, and we don't have bank accounts in order, and we don't know our finances, and we don't know. Do be messy. Get your paperwork in order. One of the things about this new law, it's wonderful that you can get that public safety officer's benefit if you don't know what the PSOB stands for, which is right now $389,000, one-time federal benefit. But you will not get it if your spouse, the minute that your spouse starts feeling anxiety, any kind of depression, anything, even if they had a critical incident, somebody has to document. If there are no documents backing up, hey, this officer may have completed suicide because
It has to be
Yeah.
counted that it's work related.
it has to be.
Wow.
And Cindy, I think because you work in the mental health field, I think you know that there's a stigma on officers even discussing. That's how they get us in the first responder world. You all as spouses have to start doing is when there's something happens and it's shaky and it seems shaky, document it. Get it documented. I went in to see a mental health professional. They told me I'm having sleep issues because they told me that I'm having anxiety because you If this is not heavily documented, what went on, what could have triggered, then you're not going to get your benefit.
Holy crap. That's, I think I need to take up that mission and inform mental health professionals.
Read it.
And
Read
we
the-
need to keep
read the-
informing. Yeah, I will read it because
Read it.
that's screwy.
That's very screwy. There's it's a wonderful, now I won't tell bad because it's wonderful because we fought for it. And they gave us something,
Mhm.
but that the qualifications for it are very stringent. Make sure that you read it. There are some other bills and different things that are also going through about officers and Social Security. Because I think people know that most officers don't get Social Security because we are public servants. They're looking to try to rectify that. There are a lot of mental wellness bills going through right now. And at the state level, I can tell you that at our state level, and it's also in Florida, and I think maybe Colorado, no, Illinois, which if you have not looked at the bills in Illinois that have come through, my spouses in Illinois started ringing the bell. Everybody's having a fit about all of these new laws that were passed in Illinois that give all this bail reform. Well, my spouses started ringing the alarm about that in January of this year, and nobody was paying it. But now that they're almost, you can get some of those things reversed, but you better start looking at some of these new laws and things that are being passed. There's a heart and lung legislation. I know they're working on it. Like I said, in Florida, we're working here in Missouri to work on it, and in Colorado too. Most officers go in and they have a physical every year. And it's a note that when officers first come out the academy, their heart and lung works wonderful. But then as the years pass of fast food, sitting in the car, poor working
Stress.
call, stress, the heart and lungs become, and so some of these states are trying to pass something that if an officer has a heart attack or something that has to do with his heart or lung, that becomes line of duty.
Wow.
If you document, there are some
It can be like a side job documenting.
or some things that are coming down the pipe. And there are some things that you need to fight for. A lot of people are looking at qualified immunity. If you don't have an officer bill of rights in your state, we do here in the state of Missouri. I'm very proud to say that the National Police Wives fought for that Bill of Rights because the day that it was supposed to come to the floor, they were talking about not bringing it to the floor. And I remember getting on, and this is why I love my spouses at the National Police Wives and saying, we need those phones to ring at the Missouri State Capitol for the next 3 hours, force them to put this bill on the floor. And my ladies lit those phones up. They lit those phones up so bad the phone systems crashed. From all over this country, and our FOP president called me and he said, you ladies are the baddest queens I've ever. He was like, man, he was like, the representative that wasn't going to take it to the floor, his office, literally for a while until we start calling. And out he came and he was like, oh my God, the police spouses are so mad at me. And that was one of the things that I told him as a unit. I want the most feared organization in this country is Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yes, it is.
The most feared. When women get
them
rounded up,
too.
Moms Demand Action is number 2. Number 3, I want to be the National Police Wives Association. Don't get us riled up. Do not get the spouses of officers riled up.
I love that.
But we are teaching them to do it in a respectful way. I'm always like, listen, the people who are answering the phones, don't y'all call these people cussing at them and all mean, and because they just answer phones. Be respectful, tell them who you are, and tell them why we're calling. And we have to protect our communities too. Part of this is protecting our community. You gotta watch. In some states, qualified immunity is gone. Massachusetts, Connecticut, gone. When those bills passed at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, this stuff that went on in Illinois, we sat up and watched it. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Colorado they can sue up to a certain amount. I began to watch that on the National Police Labs, we're working with a couple of financial organizations and different things, and we'll be coming out real soon because they're willing to help get some of the financial things in order. And there's a company that I'm working with right now called Thriving that's looking to possibly provide a malpractice type insurance for police officers.
Oh
So
my
that
God.
if they're sued, I've
Kelli,
been
that's
personally.
huge.
Oh yeah.
So can I just clarify, if people don't understand, as a clinician, I have malpractice insurance because I have to be prepared that I'm going to be sued in some way. And that organization protects me. And like my policy is I have a 1 million per claim, 3 million per year policy. And these are huge policies. Having a company that would provide some type of, if you will, malpractice insurance would
For
be
officers.
amazing. Yeah, for officer. Yes.
No,
That
I've
is
speaking with them
wow.
about that. They're like, it's very doable. Because for a while we were like, nobody will do that. And they were like, no,
It's brilliant.
it can be done. We're looking at some of that. And also some of our spouses in certain areas, like Virginia, we got some spouses right now who are going to war about shortages. This is becoming a thing. This is going to be a new National Police Labs campaign. I'm telling y'all that right now. So like right now in the city of St. Louis, we're supposed to have 1,300 officers. We have about 1,000.
Yeah.
So,
Which
and maybe less than that, which officer safety now becomes that's
yes.
so now not only are you dealing with officer safety, health, mental wellness, they're not getting the kind of breaks that they should be getting because they're people are, I don't know if you all notice, and it's very gradually happening. This is what I would always advise spouses on a state level to do. And this is why I started working on the national level. Whatever the national trend is what's going to hit your state.
Absolutely.
Nationally, there's a trend that we can reduce police officers. Let's reduce them. You know what they're using to reduce them? Let's reduce them and put more mental health professionals in place. Okay. So right here in the city, there's smoke and mirrors, people, smoke and mirrors. Right here in the city of St. Louis, there's a program called Cops and Clinicians. I'm a huge advocate for it. I love it. Think it's good. Here's what I don't like. And you gotta watch these kinds of things. When they put this program in place, they did not train one officer to do it. They just announced it in their email that there are now clinicians that are going to be working with just the cops that were working with them understood it. The general rank and file officers had no clue what this program was. They did not sit these cops and clinicians down together. Now listen, I did clinician work. I was a social worker. I would have wanted to sit down with officers and see what their needs are. These are what our procedures are, because our procedures are different.
Yeah.
These are what these are your procedures, and here's how we can merge the two. That program cannot be pulled off separately. You can't call a clinician to a call that a cop and have them replace the officer. First of all, you're not sending me in nowhere where I don't know if I'm gonna get my head blown off, cut up. I'm not trained to do that. The officers should trained to do that.
Yes.
The same token with officers, there are things that we as clinicians and different people or social workers, there are methods and different things. But if we work together, if the programs can work together, I'm not against the concept, but everybody got to sit down at the table together. It can't be something that somebody that doesn't even wear a badge, that has never done social work, and that's a lot of what's happening. You got your politicians who've never done either job sitting up and saying, have the mental health professionals respond to that. You don't speak out, don't advocate for those
As a mental health professional, right? Even though I know my stuff, right? I don't, sure, great. You know what? I haven't gone through the academy. I don't know how to keep myself safe. I don't have to duck and hide under a curb. This is not what and then am I a target? Because now I'm going out into the community handling this. Now am I a target? Do I have to worry?
That's
So
a
many different
national
aspects to
trend.
this. Yes.
That's a
Yes.
national trend. Another national trend that is becoming a thing are these civilian review boards. Now, I'm all for civilians review. Go ahead. We need that transparency and that accountability, and we need this divisiveness to stop. But when they decide how to put this is my largest problem with all of this is that they are calling everybody else to the table except for us. And then they are handing these things to the departments and the offices and saying, this is what we decided will work for us on an accountability and transparency level. We ain't asked y'all nothing. How we decided it will work, deal with it.
There's no collaboration.
There's
And
no
then
collaboration.
also, so here's something also that you just said. We have a shortage, right? A shortage of officers. Then we have these review boards potentially coming in and saying, hey, this is what works for us. We don't care if you have policies and procedures in place. We don't care what you already track. We don't care what numbers. We don't care what
Correct.
works for you. We're going to throw some extra work on you, even though you're down people. And that just spirals it out even more.
And they're reinventing the wheel.
Oh, absolutely.
They're missing something. Some of the
Mhm.
programs and things, if they would sit down, officers care about their communities. We
Absolutely.
tell people all the time. One of the reasons why Charles and I decided to stay, we could have ran from the city of St. Louis a long time ago, but he decided as an officer years ago when he became an officer that he became an officer to come and work in the city that he grew up in, that he lived in, to serve the people of this city. We live here. We care about what's going on. I am a community member here. And there have been times, there was a time where I got some poor police and I was like, oh no, players, we got our atone for. I had officers come here. We had some person that stole a car flying down our street, leave the car and sitting there. They jumped out the car and ran. I told the police, this is what I'm supposed to do. They came over here and they told me, ma'am, you're going to have the car towed. And mind you, I should not. Now later, this was a teachable moment for the officers because, of course, when my husband found out he had 2 cows, a horse, and a little dog, that anybody had spoken to me in that manner or whatnot. But my point to the officers, when they came back, I said, listen, if this had been my neighbor who may have never had any kind of encounter with officers or anything, and this is how you spoke with them, guess what their impression of officers would be from this point on.
Right.
I got to do the job myself. What do I need you for? I understood their reasoning. Their reasoning was that it was very busy on the radio. And here in the city of St. Louis, which is the #1 crime rated city in this country, we got the #1 homicide rate. There were more important calls happening at the time. We're short. I get that. I'm married to y'all. I get it. But what you could have said to me, and my husband told him that as a sergeant, you could have said, ma'am, we can't tow the car right now. The radio is extremely busy, but we will make sure that it is done before the end of the day. That's it. But that's another reason why it is important for us as police spouses to become involved too, because we have to protect our communities as well. I'm going to protect my community from some bad policing too. You're not going to talk to my neighbors like that. You represent us. As a blue family, you represent us. So if you cannot answer radio calls, then somebody needs to talk to you about that. I'm not going to put up with that either. Nor am I going to put up with my neighbors saying, our police aren't doing their job. Yes, they are. They're doing as well as they can with what is given to them. But you have to understand, you as a community member have to understand what they're not given. And if you don't live in those communities, then you can't, our mayor can't stand up and say anywhere that this is so we're fine. We don't need new police officers and whatnot. I live here. You need some little bit. I got the inside track. You're not gonna tell me that this is all right. Those are the national trends. You gotta look at look at the national trend. Look at what's happening all over the country with police. What do you see? The continual stories. And the continual stories are the shortage, the lack of recruitment right now. Because who wants to do that job? Wouldn't.
No one. Yeah.
Any day you can be a hero and or a villain.
Yes.
On any day, depending
Hero
upon
to
what it
zero.
looks like. Depending upon what it looks like on the video. You
Absolutely. Get sued, go to jail. There's all these aspects now, for sure.
Get killed.
So what? Killed. So recruitment, hiring,
wellness practices. Look at their wellness practices. Look at what your state. Look to see if you have an officer bill of rights in your state. Every state needs an officer bill of rights. If you don't have it, look for it. Look for them to be talking about qualified immunity. Sometimes those conversations or the talk about pulling it will be attached to other bills and all these laws. Like that thing that came out in Illinois was 972 pages.
oh Lord.
That passed at 3:00 in the morning. Well, nobody reading that 972 pages.
No.
But they're looking at it now because there's part of that law is that there's no bail. So they're now not required to give bail to people who have committed second-degree arson, kidnapping. So no, you could have battered somebody. You could have hit somebody drunk driving. You're no longer required to have bail.
It's insane.
They're part of it. Part of that 972-page document that passed says that all departments in Illinois have to have body cameras, which is
Yeah, I agree.
But if you don't get the body cameras, they will disband that department and turn that area over to the state police. Some of the smaller departments, it's not the body cameras themselves. Exxon and all these people have all kinds of grants for body cameras. It's the storage. It's the
it's the storage. That's where they get you.
People. That's where it's very expensive. There's been at least 2 departments in Illinois that have been disbanded, and they are now under state police control and or another police area polices them. There's one, the nearest police officer is 30 minutes away.
Oh my gosh. How is the community up in arms about that?
It's small. They probably are, but it's a small community. So nobody's paying them any attention.
How do we stay up on trends? Is that something that following National Police Wives Association on social media will help? Is there a way for us to stay on top of that? What do you recommend? Because it can be, I'm thinking about people listening. I know specific ways where I can go into Texas and I can put certain words in and it'll alert me that things are happening and that I need to read this and highlight the keywords that I'm looking for. To me, I know a process and a way to do that. How can others stay on top of things, stay on top of the bills, and stay on top of call to actions that you need or that we need to have as a community?
For certain, if you follow us on the National Police Wives, you'll certainly see some of it there. Now, we become alert to it when our affiliates and different people on the state level bring our attention to things and we say, oh, whoa, wait a minute. That's probably something that we need to fight on a national level. The biggest thing, though, is to stay tuned in to you. I would love to say there's some magic pill of where you can go to, but you have got to, as a police spouse, if this is something that you care about, and you should, because it's going to affect your spouse's employment, which is going to...
I can even say as officers too, right? Spouses and officers need to stay on top of this, yeah.
Anything that is... salute to Sergeant Lowe. He is the best. I have got the best husband. He is a provider in this household. The provider in this household. I stay on top of anything that is going to affect his money and our money coming in here, his health, his money, his beat. And again, that goes back to not being messy. Give a prime example, and a lot of us know Carrie Ann from Married to the Bed. She just lost her husband, John. I had been down to Georgia. Carrie Ann had invited me down to teach a class. Charles and I teach a class nationwide called Two Sides of an Incident, which is about his critical incident how it affected him and how it affected me, because it affected both of us so differently. And then the effects hit at different times. The morning that he was shot, his perspective of things was this way, which was just survival. And oh my God, I just went through this traumatic incident. And mine was pure D anger at that point. I was just angry and went into I got to protect my husband survival mode. And I did not take care of myself for 3 years.
Oh,
For
wow.
3
Okay.
years.
Yeah.
And that is because, and I say the 3 years because for 3 years we were getting drugged in and out of court because the people who shot him had their appeals process. And when we finally went to court, my stuff manifested on my trunk. My husband's had begun to heal because we had done everything for Joe. Everything. Oh, we're going to take care of you. We're going to do that. He was seeing somebody. He was talking to somebody. I didn't give myself any help. What do I need help for? I wasn't shot at. I wasn't. But technically, the whole family was shot that morning. And going into court and hearing his dispatch, seeing the videos of the shooting, having them wheel out his shirt because there was a huge question as to whether they understood that he was a police officer or not. And so our prosecutor, because and never seen my husband. My husband was about 6'2". My husband was like big old NFL linebacker.
Yes. That's a good description. A linebacker.
There's no way that you didn't see. And the St. Louis 10 for a sergeant is huge. It's a big old huge bag. So there's no way that they didn't see it. He was not in a marked car. However, there's no way that they didn't see it. And so they wheeled in his shirt, the vest that he was shot in. Just hearing the prosecutors describe how they showed how the guys that shot him circled him for an hour. And she said it was like lion stalking prey. Like they watched him to figure out how they were going to ambush and shoot him for an hour. They had they were in an entertainment area, which happens to have video cameras from the ceiling to the floor. They were able to pull it from about 25 different angles and all of those things. Anyway, we teach
so much stimulus for you.
Oh, yes. Then just my interactions with the shooter's family, not very nice people. Did not realize that I'm probably not the girl to challenge out in the hallway. I tell people all the time, don't let this professionalness fool you. I'm from the hood in St. Louis.
You have a nickname for her too, don't you?
That's right. Kiki.
Kiki. Yes.
Kiki.
I enjoy the Kiki posts.
Kiki from the hood will come out in a minute. And I so happen to be surrounded by police spouses. Don't get us all sparked up. My tribe is very much like me. They are ride or die, girl has to die type people. Yeah, but during that time, Charles and I always talk about how messy we were because our son, who is 8 now, he was almost 2 at that point. We didn't have any paperwork for CJ. We didn't have anything in order. If Charles had been killed that morning, I did not know where to access certain records. We were messy. It would have been very messy. And it would have gotten done eventually, but I would have had to have someone walk me through that. And our assumption as spouses of officers is that there's always someone on the department that's going to do that. And that's not true. No, they don't always have that. And so that's why I'm working with so many financial brother-in-law happens to be vice president in Wells Fargo. My brother and sister-in-law are very financial people. They both do financial work. And they were like, y'all stuff's all out of order. Yeah. And so I had been down with Terry and a bunch of spouses teaching that exact thing. And I remember the morning that I was teaching it, Carrie Ann was like, there's so much I don't know. There's so much. She's like, I got to get this fixed. And literally the week and a half after I did that class is when her husband was killed in the line. She will tell you herself, it's something that she's beginning to preach and teach on they not have things in order. That is it, and it's not so much. It's your knowledge as a spouse. This is one of the things that I teach. It's not that the officers' things are not together. It's your knowledge of how to access all of the things that you're going to need to be able to access. Things as simple as, and people don't think about this. I've responded to many calls. I responded to a call some years ago where a young spouse officer had been in a car accident, was in a coma. Her name was not on their bank account.
Gosh.
She had not ever paid any of the bills in the home. She did not know how to access them. She did not, and y'all know now that access sometimes comes with passcodes and all kinds of stuff. But I can
Yes.
tell you that if your name is not at least on something, when you go into a bank, they don't care.
They do not.
There's no payable upon death on this account. I just went through this with my mother when my mother passed away. And my mother was the most organized person in the world. I know she is probably in heaven like, how did this happen? She went out of here without a will. I'm an only child. I was her only child anyway. And that the only saving grace is that I was an only child because she went out of here without a will, but I had to go to probate. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I just got out of probate. My mother passed away in June of 2020. I just got out of probate in May of this year.
2 years
I
later.
just got control of her house, her bank, all of that stuff. And I'm an only child. There was nobody else to fight me about it. So what I'm telling you is that you thus have got to know if y'all need to have that talk. And I know nobody wants to have that conversation. We don't want to talk. We don't want to bring death to our doorstep. But death is on our doorstep. They're police officers.
Every day.
So you gotta get your paperwork in order, get your things in order. Even in this world where now they can be sued.
Yes.
Know where your assets are. Know if you have to move some of those assets around so that you don't lose your home.
If you need to form an LLC.
If you need to form an LLC, there you go. That's what I see. All of that stuff has got talked about. And we're not talking about that. You all have to know too, as spouses. I know we want to make it all about the officers, but it's not just all about the officers. It's about us too.
Right.
When they go into a trauma or a crisis, you went with them.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
get your whole kind of mental health. My husband has his own peer support nonprofit called Project Heard, and he does his work. And one of the things that they preach is having a pre-made mental health circle. Not one after you have the crisis. Before the crisis, as an officer, do you have a mental health circle? Who's in it? What's going to happen? If you're involved in a crisis, who's your first phone call? Who are your peers that you can talk to? Who do you trust with your family, with your children? Do you have you researched mental health professionals in your area?
Absolutely.
What's your department going to pay for? Department not going to pay for. If they're not going to pay for it, where do you reach out to help? There are places, for instance, the Compassion Alliance. Tony is amazing in Arizona. Tony and his wife, Nelly. That's all they do. They pay for, after a critical incident for officers, they pay for mental health services. We just got those same services for an officer here in St. Louis. And we're going to pay for him to have trauma counseling. That's what the Compassion Alliance does. They pay for mental health services for him and their spouse.
Wow.
The Wounded Blue is another good organization that you can contact that acknowledges that we have wounded and injured officers. Wounded and injured is two different things. Know the difference. Just knowing all of those things as a spouse. That's for me as an advocate. That's what I preach. That's you. You cannot count on these departments.
No.
Cindy, I know I'm preaching to the.
But you know what? You're preaching to a whole community. The community that you're talking to right now, some of us don't think about those things before. And I think you just made a really awesome point that advocacy starts at home. Advocacy starts with advocating for you as a couple, advocating for your mental health, for your husbands, for your children's, for your spouses. I always make sure to say that,
Yep.
that advocacy starts within your four walls that
Yep.
you live within. Advocacy starts with protecting your minds, your hearts, your bodies.
Your family.
Yes.
Family.
And yes, there is greater advocacy that can occur, like we were talking about on a national level. But advocacy is not just that. Advocacy is the whole entire thing, protecting. And I honestly, Kelli, for me, that's my aha moment towards the end here, is this idea of advocacy is all that we do to take care of our family, that we can go beyond this career.
Yep.
And have lives. And even if our life gets interrupted with a critical incident or an officer involved, that we have advocated along the way for ourselves, and we know how to advocate to continue to support family, our spouses, as we go along.
100%.
Man,
100%.
I want to, because we talked about this briefly, and I just want to do this quickly. You have a TV network?
I do.
And I wanted you to mention that because I thought that was too flippin' cool. You had said it's on Roku. Can you tell them
It
just
is.
briefly?
It is on Roku. It is actually I am now the CEO of a media company. It is called Blue Line Media.
Crazy. Say that again because I interrupted you. Blue Line.
Blue Line Media is the name of the media company. The reason why, again, this would be like even a whole show in itself. The reason why I decided to start it was just the media influences so many things. And I'm not going to disparage them. There's some bad media out there, and then there are some good things that you learn from media. It's a necessary evil, but I like being able to be a part of that's out there. Blue Line's purpose is to provide a space. Our theme is creating content for those that serve communities. That is our tagline, that's our mission, whatever. And service to community could be teachers, coaches, first responders, anybody that's putting it could be a young kid that's got a public a servant's heart or whatnot. I want the community to be able to get on and learn things especially about police officers and first responders that they may not know. And I want first responders to be able to get on and learn things about communities that they may not know. My husband did a class some years ago. He taught a class on diversity. And he teaches it from a wonderful perspective. My husband and I are movie buffs. And this is media. He took the movie In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier and Ross Sterling.
Yeah.
And he teaches a class on diversity from that movie for officers. And it's funny how when you look at that movie, even though it was done so many years ago, there are so many moments in it where you can just, oh, look at that, look at this, look at that. For me, with the National Police Lives, when we started doing this bridge building work that we do, we actually took up with a diversity and an inclusion coach. His name is Pierre Campbell. He teaches diversity, inclusion, and allyship on a corporate level. National is what he does. And I wanted the programming on Blue Line to be such so that people could get on there and learn. I remember when my husband again was teaching the class, one of the officers there, who was a city officer now, he grew up in a rural area. It wasn't racism, it was experience. He had come down into the city and he was like, I never experienced some of the things I've gone into, and I had never even thought of it that way. I tell people all the time, I'm a city girl. So when I go into the country, there are things that in small sheriff departments and spouses who live in rural areas, they deal with raccoons and different. One of my friends, good spouse friends, Heather, she's always talking to the little raccoons out on her back porch and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, they are in the city. I'm not saying that they aren't, but if I saw a raccoon, first of all, Ryder Lowe, our little gangster puppy, would probably kill it because he's killed possums, squirrels, all kinds of things.
Mhm,
Y'all
mhm.
wouldn't believe it.
The
He
dog.
a little 30-pound Australian Shepherd mixed with a poodle, but I'm pretty sure he sees a full-grown shepherd with it. But those experiences are they're just different experiences. It's lack of knowledge. And I started Blue Line for that. Blue Line is under, thankfully, we're under another parent network, which is called the Smart People Network. The Smart People Network does religious programming. They have the suicide prevention channel on there. You'll see all kinds of diverse type of financial programming, whatnot. And the CEO of it, the Pastor Michael Bates, who I have my boss, he came to me and he said, listen, I think there's a need for what you do. I think that the community doesn't get your side.
Mm.
He said, and I think your side of the story needs to be told by you all and not us. So what you think about starting a network? And I was like, absolutely not. I don't know anything about that. I'm not. And he was like, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to walk you through this. And so we have started it. We're in our testing phase. It has been started since July. So you get on Roku and look up the Smart People Network and add it as a channel. Once you click on it, you'll see 5 different channels, and Blue Line Media is one of them, and it runs 24 hours a day. Right now, you'll see old movies and cop shows on there, some of the interviews and things that Randy and I have done on National Police Wives on Wellness Wednesday. You'll see the National Police Wives lip sync video, which everybody seems to love. PNC, all of that kind of stuff. But we've since grown from that too. And we have SPM Media Plus, which can also be accessed through Roku, but it is video on demand. It can also, if you go on www.spmmediaplus.com, you can also go on there, hit browse, go down, and if you want to, there are people that say, oh, I watch the National Police Wives lip sync video every day because they get on there and it's video on demand. You press it and you can. It's how I wake myself up and get myself ready going in the morning. Okay, if that's what you want, then go on there and do that. So we have that. I'm working on some additional. I would love to be able to get an app done so that everybody can do an app. I'm working on some additional networks too that have to do with sports and that type of thing. The new thing that we have community-wise on Blue Line here in the city of St. Louis, this is also another national trend. Unfortunately, we had in a period of 2 months, we had 12 children find guns and shoot themselves or a sibling. So I was talking to a friend of mine in Indiana. Her name's Lacey. She does photography and video work and so on the sports level. Because in Indiana, youth sports is what youth do. It's what they do. And so we decided to do a campaign about gun safety. So we found one of their winningest teams, little 8 and 9-year-old football players.
Oh, wow.
We brought them in. Their coaches agreed to come in. Their parents agreed to come in. And I sat down and I talked to them for 2 hours about gun safety, what they knew about guns, about police, how they felt these were inner city kids, how they felt about police, how they felt about school shootings, active shooters, that kind of thing. And I was always supposed to talk to them for an hour, and they were so open and wonderful. We ended up getting 2 hours worth of footage. At the end, we ended up interviewing. We had a media day. We ended up interviewing their parents. We had parents in tears in the back because they had not known that some of them did not know their children had ever even had access to guns ever. But this was the biggest thing for me during that. We also brought older kids in, and Cindy, I can't wait for you to see this. We talked to them about mental health and what youth sports does for them with their mental health. We talked to some wonderful, and these kids opened up. The biggest thing for me that day, there was a woman there, African-American woman, and I could tell when she first came in, she was very apprehensive. I was very open about the fact that I was married to a police officer. I wanted them to relate to me on that level. And they did. They opened up. She never came and talked to me at first. At the end, she came up to me. She was in tears. And she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, absolutely. And she said, can I tell you something? And I was like, sure. She's like, I hope it doesn't offend you. I said, it's pretty hard to offend me. But she said, I hated the police before today. And I said, why? And she said, my brother was tased to death by a police officer. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, can I hug you? And she said, I never thought of policemen as human beings with families, until meeting you today and seeing how wonderful you were and open you were with the kids. I have a different opinion about this. And I said, listen, baby steps. I said, listen, I said, you are grieving. And one of the stages of grief is anger. You've been angry all of this time. And I said, and you may still have bouts of anger. I said, I'm not going to even get off into with you what happened, whatever. That doesn't matter to me. I said, what matters to me is that you and I are here right now and that we're understanding each other and that we have changed each other's thought process about things. And she's like, oh my God, I so appreciate that. That's what I want for Blue. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Then one bridge. It's that bridge. I built it. It's there. It may not be the sturdiest, but she will walk out of there and have a different, she said, I'm going to look at officers different. I'm going to tell you, when I asked those 8-year-old and 9-year-old young men, how many of you all are afraid of officers? I had 20 kids sitting in front of me. Every hand went up in that room.
Yeah.
And some of their coaches are young African-American men, and they felt open enough to say, I'm afraid of. 2 weeks after I was with them, I got a picture from the coaches. They were in Detroit. The kids had run up to some Detroit police officers and took their pictures with them.
Oh my gosh.
They ran right up to him. Coach was so happy. He's, oh my God, I had to share this with you. I had
Absolutely.
to. And when they had that little car wash, they had a car wash. I told my Indianapolis, the IMPD friends, and I said, can y'all have some of your officers and things show up and please? So we got to continue this.
Yes.
And some of the parents and the coaches were like, if we can have a partnership, yes, you can have a partnership with local officers and those coaches, because these are the kids that could fall between the cracks, that an officer can come to a coach and say, hey, coach, this kid is, and y'all
We
can
need
come
your
to an
influence.
agreement. We need your influence here. We need your input. And you all can come to some agreements. We can save these babies. This does not have to go this way.
Yeah.
The Firehawks PSA is on there. There's a movie that was done by a retired police officer called Family Fire, where a young kid finds a gun and accidentally shoots himself. All of that is also on Blue Line. Our Firehawks PSA is getting a lot of notice.
It's getting seen.
It's getting seen. I'm very proud too. I have to shout out to my cousin. My cousin is a rapper, and he clean stuff that's not usually his thing. He's grown up. He raps about what he sees, whatever. I went to him and I said, listen, Justin, I need a clean rap. I need something for my PSA, whatever. I told him what I wanted, and he put me together the most wonderful overnight. He went into the studio, said, I got you.
So talented.
Went into the studio overnight, did a song called Autumn, because football happens in autumn. Did it. And I told him, I said, one of our sponsors was Honor and Respect, the officer in Iowa who owns shoe company that does the Blue Line shoes and first responder shoes on all the kids. Them were there, donated them to us.
Wow.
I said, I need Honor and Respect to be a part of the rap. He put that in there, and it's on the Firehawks PSA. And Lacey came up with a very cool phrase, which is be safe, be smart, tell an adult. Don't touch a gun. Be safe, be smart, tell an adult. Firehawks did a wonderful job with it. The Firehawks PSA is on there. It's amazing. Family Fire is amazing. And we're going to be coming out with some more stuff. But that's the stuff. That's what
the network is. And
that's what the network is.
On demand. Yes.
Yes, on demand. When I asked them about the schools, I did this interview with them 2 weeks before you vowed. And when I asked them about school shootings, I had 20 kids in front of me. I want everybody to think about this. I got 20 different answers on what you're supposed to do. Somebody, matter of fact, when I first said, what if they said to you all about school shooting? Lacey called me the day after you vowed me. She called me. She said, I pulled the footage. She was like, she's a mother. She's, I am terrified. One of the first things kids said is, what's that? I said, what if they talk to you all about active shooters? What's that? No kid in this day and age should be saying, what's an active shooter? So I went back and re-explained. I said, maybe they didn't understand what I was asking them.
Maybe they use different wordage.
Maybe they use different words. I used the different words, and they started doing these gestures like tornado drills. And I showed that to the head of our SWAT teams and CDT teams and things here, our lieutenant here. And he said, oh my God. He said, if we are still teaching children to throw their hands above their head like they're in a tornado drill, we are failing. He was like,
That's not the F word I thought you were going to say, but
no, he said, we are, you know how
Yes.
valuable this video is? He's like, officers need to see this. And that's my point. I want them to see, I want officers to be able to look at that and say, oh my God, we have to do better. I want officers to look at that and say, oh my God, these children are afraid of us. Why are they afraid of us?
Yes.
Let's do better. That's me.
I like it. That's all, Kelli. Well, the fact that you're saying the bridges, right? We've got to find out where those bridges need to occur. And that's what you said earlier, you're uniquely situated for some of that. And we still need to be out there doing it. And all of us can help bridge. All of us, every single one of us can help bridge, because there are all kinds of people that have trauma stories with officers. There's also, there's education that you mentioned. And so bridging that is a big part of it. There is a lot that we covered, and I want to make sure that people can contact you in various places. I just want to mention again, the Blue Line Network is on Roku. You also mentioned that your husband, Charles, has a program as well.
Project Hurt.
Project Hurt is his. We have National Police Wives Association.
That's the biggest.
That's the biggest. That to stay on top of all of it, and to so many resources that are a part of that. And you have covered so many resources over our interview, and it's just going to be amazing. How did people, and you mentioned even your own program that you teach along with your husband too. How can people, let's talk, first of all, National Police Wives Association is NPWA,
the National
NPWA.org.
You can do national, it's on our website is nationalpolicewivesofficial.org, of course, because we're 501c3. We have that. Blue Line Media can be found on Facebook right now. I have not, because we're under SPN, I haven't had to build a web page because they haven't. It's www.spnmediaplus.com is where you can get on and find them. Project Hurt has projecthurt.org. And Hurt stands for Heal, Uplift, Restore, and Transition. Charles's group is a group of wounded and injured officers that have gotten together and they formed a outside peer support group. That is all they do is peer support. All of them have been wounded and injured in various ways. Some of them are what you call the walking wounded, which is those with PTSD and anxiety. They can be contacted on any of our Facebook pages. If you drop a message in, you can contact us. And then, of course, Project Hurt, I think, has an email hooked to them as well. The best way to get in touch with the National Police Wives is to we monitor our Facebook page. Probably has the largest presence of spouses. It's 160,000 spouses on there.
Yeah.
We monitor it daily. I know Facebook, I always tell people always say, you should hide. And I say, No, because if somebody comes to my house where my child is after me, Sergeant Lowe, it's not going to be the problem.
If people want to get a hold of you directly, is Facebook the best way, or is it email?
Yes,
Or
they can Facebook. You can not answer my messages on Facebook. I don't hide anything. You get on my Facebook pages, it's completely public. There's rarely a very
Mine is too.
put anything private. Come on after me if you want to. I always tell people, now
coming out?
it's all risk. If you get on a post and you got some things to say it. But I'm gonna say some things back to you. So just know.
And I will put as many links as I can in the show notes so you can access her. And you can tell Kelli has so much going on. We could have gone there. I know this is going to be broken down, but we
Scratch the surface.
yeah, this is just scratching the surface. You need to go follow Kelli. You need to follow National Police Officers Association, join the Facebook group, and get in there and really get involved. And if you're an officer, encourage your spouse to do this. Help them to help you to stay on top of mental health, on legislation, on resources that are out there. That's where I was talking about advocacy, right? And we're a team in our own advocacy. Yes.
They're your
Yes.
most powerful tool. Departments do not want to rouse the spouses. I'm telling you right now, you get your spouses roused up anywhere. Departments do not want police wives on television or spouses on television crying and hollering and all around. They don't, because they know people will be like, oh my gosh, look, they got kids.
I think Kelly's telling us we need to make our voices heard and maybe get a little riled up every now and then.
And if you don't know how to do that in a respectful manner, please feel free to contact us at the National Police Wives. In most places, we have affiliates. In some places, we don't. And if you're willing to start an affiliate and go through some of our training and some of the things that we're doing, we make sure we'll have another full conference coming up. That's rolling around in my brain. Now, we took a year off and we traveled to smaller places just to get to know people personally. But next year we'll have another leadership summit. We only allow 50 spouses to that so that we can do the personalized training that really needs to take place. We're also, Project Herd and I, we're also looking at a couples one.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm working on a book. I wasn't going to even write a book, but
I always thought I wasn't going to write a book either. There you go.
Cindy and some of my other friends inspired me, and I'm like, everybody's been saying for years, you know, this experience, and I'm like, who wants to read that? But
everybody,
we'll see. We'll see.
Kelli, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know that just the impact that you think you make is just a small ripple in the universe. You make a huge impact. And thank you for speaking up, speaking out. And thank you for your orangeness. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the color.
It is an absolute privilege to be an orange for the spouses and officers and families of this country. And I appreciate people trusting me to be their spokesperson. It's a privilege to me to be able to do that and serve people. And I appreciate you having me, Cindy.
Thank you. Guys, until next time, keep it Code 4. Stay safe.
Thanks for joining us. For more information about the podcast or Cindy, check out code4couples.com. All intellectual property rights owned by CRLD2 Ventures, LLC, are protected by the firm of 9mm, 45 ACP, 5.56mm, and 12 gauge.